Welcome back to the Marching Arts Utah podcast. I'm here today with a very special guest. This is somebody that's not only been a huge part of the history of the marching arts in the state of Utah, but also in bands of all kinds over the last 50 years, and somebody who's reached and touched hundreds and likely thousands of lives of students and current teachers. This is Dr. Don Peterson. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks. I'm Don Peterson. I'm kind of the dinosaur. I've been around quite a while. I started at American Fork in 1976. I was there for 10 years, and then at BYU for 35 years. So I've been around the block a bit. But retired as of 2021 and still very interested in what's happening with marching arts.
I think it's really cool that you love it so much, even after all these many years of doing it, that you're still invested, you're still involved.
Yeah, it's a big part of me. I wasn't involved a lot with marching when I was younger, but it's a big part of what I did once I started teaching. So,
what were you? We all know that you were at American Fork. Tell us about your musical journey. From the time you were young and then leading up through schooling and stuff.
I went to high school at Granite High School in Salt Lake City. We had an outstanding district orchestra, Granite Youth Symphony and Granite Senior Youth Symphony, and an outstanding jazz band. Went to Reno Jazz Festival and so on. And I didn't do marching in high school because we didn't really have it. We had one halftime show we did,
Okay.
which was on homecoming. Mm-hmm. We'd march out from the end zone, turn and face the crowd, and play the fight song, and then march back. We did a counter march though, but that was it.
Just one counter march.
Yeah, one counter march.
Exciting.
And we had practices in the dark. I still remember because one time we snuck and brought duck decoy sounds. And so when they whistled it off, the count off, and we all started with but it was dark, so he couldn't tell what we were doing. But that's all we did, just that one show. So we had just probably 4 rehearsals, and then that was it. Anyway, so I wasn't involved with marching in college. I was in the National Guard, so I did some marching. I started out as a combat engineer, but then there was room in the band after I returned from a mission, and I marched a lot of things with the 23rd Army Band,
Oh, cool.
Including the most infamous one is doing the parade in Heber City, where you march down one side of the highway and then march back the other way, so the bands are passing each other.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's quite the sound. Charles Ives kind of thing. But anyway, I did a bit of marching there, and my real introduction into marching band, because of the differences in style and the high step and that, it didn't really interest me a lot because the music was a lot the same and the formations were a lot the same. And I didn't want to bounce around. So anyway, I had been teaching just a couple of years, and people talked to me about it, said, "Aren't you more interested?" And ended up going to DCI Nationals.
Nice. Like just to observe?
Just to observe. I'd never seen a drum corps before. And prelims is my first adventure into that.
Yeah.
And I remember Kurt Seville, who was my good friend who taught at Lehigh. We both looked at each other and said, "Boy, there's a way to get a lot of people involved with music and a lot of enthusiasm." And then, in short, later I wrote my master's thesis on the interrelationship of concert marching and jazz.
Really?
Yeah, because people would say, you can't do all three. You can't make it happen. Many people said you can't do jazz and classical at the same time, but just as many said you can't do concert and marching. But as I did that study, one of the things that came out was that people looked at jazz band as being a vocational part of band, and as marching band as the public relations, because you can't touch nearly as many people and influence them as far as what you're doing as you can with the marching band. So I was adamant that it could be done, and I did a national survey, and yeah.
Wow.
So that's been a part of my thoughts on education all the way through.
Is that master thesis something that is available publicly that people could go and read?
Well, I'm sure there's a copy of it in the BYU library.
Okay.
I don't know if it's online or not.
Okay.
My doctoral dissertation might be, but I don't know if the master's is.
What was your doctoral dissertation about? Just curious.
Band repertoire and the prospective music educator.
Okay.
So how are you exposed to band literature in college, and what it does towards your influence of how you teach and so on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, both of those sound like really fascinating reads. So we'll see if we can find them online, and if so, we'll put them in the description down here. But check out the BYU library, and maybe we'll find those. You did both of those while you were at BYU?
No, my doctorate was at Arizona State University.
Okay. When was it that you decided that you wanted to do music education as your career?
That came very young.
Yeah.
I was probably ninth grade.
Okay.
And actually, before that, I was in elementary school, 7th and 8th grade. I was in this, it was called International Boys and Girls Marching Band. And we marched like in the Christmas parade.
Okay, yeah.
And that kind of thing. But we had white uniforms with blue and red capes. We were kind of like Superman in a milk delivery suit.
Yeah.
But we were little kids, just real little kids. And my teacher's father was in John Philip Sousa's band. And so it was the kind of thing,
Wow.
was it, you teach a boy to blow a horn and he'll never blow a safe. So it was kind of this whole thing that pulled us all together. And so I had background there. And then I worked at the music store and started teaching lessons, helping teach group lessons. Ray Smith and I. And,
cool.
And then later Kurt Seville was with us too. But I found that I loved music and I loved teaching, and to do music and not have to sell something, but to actually see people change and have them feel the same things that I'd felt really resonated with me. And I thought, this is what I want to do. Even though I had chances to do some other things that paid a lot more. I said, at least got to try this for a while. And then the more I did it, the more I loved it.
So it came from a very personal place inside of you.
It did.
It made you feel a certain way. You wanted to help others feel what you were feeling.
Right. Yeah. If they can feel the same thing I'm feeling, and especially if I can read it on their face, it was very meaningful to me. And seeing them feel the same things that you never know what they feel. It's exactly the same. But see them be influenced by the same things. Yeah.
Yeah. So you started at BYU as an undergrad.
Right.
Do you want to take us through your college experiences?
Okay. Well, my big, from high school, probably the interest that got me at BYU was that they were very interested in me coming and playing there in the band. I was just getting ready to go to basic training. And I was registered at the U.
Oh,
but I had another semester. And Kurt was at the U during that semester while I was gone. And during that time, he decided he was ready to move. And I wasn't very receptive to my first invitation to go to BYU.
Oh, okay.
I went there for a music camp, and I said, I don't think I want to go to church all the time. then I really fell in love with the place and with the teachers. And Noel Daly was a big influence, and decided to go there. And so my first exposure was in Wind Symphony and in synthesis. Just brand new, called synthesis. Was new name, synthesizing. Anyway, that was my big love, and I think that's how I made kind of an in with American Folk, because I student taught at American Folk.
Okay.
And they had been to synthesis concerts, so the kids were receptive to me, and
nice.
And it was like I was accepted already, and So that worked out well for me. Anyway, I student taught at American Fork, and the teacher that was there, he'd only been there for a year, he decided he was going back to Idaho. And when he did, the students and the parents petitioned, to have me stay and be the teacher.
Wow.
So I ended up being there, which was interesting because I'd been on my mission in Spanish missionary in Southern California, in Pasadena, and I had seen the American Fork Band, 1972 Rose Parade.
Wow.
I still remember them coming down the road. I thought, oh, they're from Utah. And yeah, so it kind of came full circle.
Yeah, that's amazing. I did not know that you student taught at American Fork as well. Well, before we get any farther, what was your primary instrument?
Trumpet.
Okay.
Yeah, I played trumpet. Some people joke about my clarinet playing, but I was in the National Guard Band for 22 years, I guess. And sometime during that, I was interested in learning clarinet better, and they had too many trumpets. So I started playing clarinet.
Okay.
But trumpet was my main instrument.
Gotcha. So you were able to take over the American Fork program. Can you tell me what the marching band program was like at the time that you took over?
Well, interestingly enough, the marching band program was parades, period. I would guess it'd probably been 6 or 8 or 10 years since they'd done a field show. Halftime show, what they called back in those days.
Yeah.
So after I went and saw the drum corps and became very interested in learning all about that, I talked to the pep club advisor and said, "Would you like to do something together?" And so we said, "Yeah, let's march." It was interesting because we hosted the Region Marching Festival at AF, and it was the first time that they'd marched in years. And I don't know, I just kind of took to it. It was back when Rocky was brand new. And picked out the music, said, "Let's do Rocky," and in my mind I could see dun 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 dun, all these places that had automatic hits.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, this is how we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
And I really didn't know much of what I was doing, but we had quite a bit of success. And a couple of the bands that were pretty cocky about us, why are we coming here?
Yeah.
I think we won, and it was like, but I didn't know really what I was doing. But the kids worked hard, and then after that, I had a couple of really sharp students come from California that interviewed me to see if sent their parents to interview me to see if it was worth coming to school. Lived in Alpine. So that's when I started getting some help from some people in California. Our first halftime show, probably we had, maybe 64 or 72 wins. Did pinwheels and things like that.
Nice.
But it was pretty small. And first time we did halftime show, people were surprised. And then we did another one and was really surprised. And it just kept growing. So we were in, I think, the second Rocky Mountain Invitational at BYU. And yeah, second place.
Okay.
Yeah. And went from there. 1978, we took the band to Calgary Stampede.
Oh, wow.
And then we started going, there was another great influence from Payson High School. He moved up from California, Jerry Chatwin. And he was very much into British band tradition. Plus he was into parade band tradition from Southern California, where they would have parade competitions and there'd be 80 bands in a competition. It was all made up of going 250 feet.
Oh, wow.
They'd just do a march and it was just perfect. And they practiced T's, the front and then back. And once they had that perfect, anyway, it was really fascinating. And that, the British drum major, mace and all that kind of stuff, and shields, to show what the name of the school was and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, went down there and watched that and was very taken with it. So we went back a few times to the Tournament of Champions at Chaffey College, and that was a way to learn more about those bands.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So a lot of that was like you were receiving education just as much as your students were.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I was thinking about this. I remember sitting down with Jerry, and he was showing me these books and showed me these formations of how they were moving, and I thought, wow, this is weird, And so after that, I kind of figured things out a little bit. And funny enough, I went to a symposium. The best band in the state was Skyview, and Sherry Manning was there. And I remember going to this seminar, and she said, wow, can you believe that they have dots for people? And I said, well, how have you been doing it? She said, well, I just stand there and say, you be here and be there. And they would memorize where they were.
Wow.
I was in shock. I thought, how do you do that? She said, you just space them out and say, remember this place.
Oh my
God.
gosh.
That's how they did it. So, yeah. So I was, like you say, I was getting educated at the same time.
Yeah.
We went to DCI shows. We went to Denver to watch shows there, and I went to Wyoming and watched troopers rehearse.
Okay.
Jim Jones showing me how to do a drill on a napkin, during lunch, and then the other thing is we hosted some groups at American Fork, Spirit of Atlanta.
Really?
Yeah, Freddie Martin came, and Jim Ott arrangement of Georgia on my mind.
Okay.
And I still remember sitting in front of that with the students, and he had them all set up, and they'd done their cow settings and everything. I thought, boy, this is a lot of work, And then they started warming up, and I was just like, and I remember I felt like my hair was just blowing backwards. It's like, holy cow. And that really had an impact on me. So yeah, just those things, following people around, helped. And the students taught me as much as, they were digging. It's not like we had YouTube back then, but they were digging things up and helping me. So
there's still some of that going on where they would discover something.
Yeah.
And I think it's similar today. They just have a lot easier access.
Well, yeah, you'd have a kid move in from Texas and say, this is how we did, military style band, or this is how we did this.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And back in that time, I'm sure there was a lot less like uniformity in the style, because whereas now, everyone kind of looks to what they're doing in DCI and adopting a lot of those things. But do you feel like you had a little bit more like open world creativity to work with?
Yeah. The for lack of a better term, the dignity of corps style marching really said something to me. You can have these expressive long lines and look like the music instead of expressive long lines that you're pounding your feet.
Yeah.
That said a lot to me. And then the curvilinear approach, those things made a lot of sense, and I got so I could just kind of see things in my mind, and this is how that feels to me. And that helped a lot, and then just bouncing ideas off people. Yeah, all of that was helpful.
Yeah. Did you write all of the field shows while you were at American Fork?
Yeah. I did get some ideas from other people, and videos and things, but yeah, I did, and it took a long time.
Yeah.
And it was tough. My wife is very musical, and we lived in American Fork, and then we lived in Pleasant Grove, and the band room, we didn't start shows until Labor Day.
Okay.
Because then I had to then you have an idea how many are going to be in the band
Yeah.
and which instrument, so you didn't have to rewrite it. So we write those during the night,
Yeah.
sometimes on Friday night, and the band would be coming on Saturday to learn the next part of the show.
Oh, wow.
So I'd be up most of the night, and we'd be at each other. She'd say, "That's stupid." I'd say, "Well, then you come out and teach it." We'd go back and forth, and the kids would be sleeping in the practice room. Our two little kids were running around.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So those were good times, and our kids grew up kind of on band buses and things like that. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. What was the overall marching band atmosphere like back in those days? You were saying that Skyview was the best band in the state at the time. Can you talk about just what things were like then?
Well, a couple of interesting things. I was thinking about this earlier today. One thing is when we started marching like that, you get some critics because with the dignified marching and not the cheesy kind of thing with the girls, the drill team would put Ben Gay on their teeth, so they'd have to stay smiling because if they let it close, it would sting.
Oh my God.
So that's how it, everything's a little cheesy. And then all of a sudden we're out there and they're doing things with tall flags, which seemed weird to a lot of people because they're used to swing flags and stuff.
Okay.
Tall flags and rifles and I remember a couple of football parents, grabbing me after a halftime show and say, "What are you doing with those girls with long skirts on? Don't people want to see some legs?" And I said, So it was hard for some of those people to adjust. So it was a lot different for many people.
Were there fewer marching bands or were about the same?
Well, there were a lot less people in Utah.
True.
That's the one thing as I look at it now, I think, boy, what would it have been like to have such a community? There were probably a dozen substantial programs. We started, I think, with maybe 120 when we first started doing competitions, and we were up to. Before I left to do my sabbatical, we were up around 225.
Wow.
Which was a big jump.
Yeah.
Just grew. And we were one of the biggest ones. In fact, we may have been, my memory's not great, maybe we were like 180. But it was quite large back then. And there were some smaller bands, we didn't have like 6 categories and so on. And some years it was based on the size of the school or the size of the band, and some years it was based on other things. So and the rules changed a lot, because it came from a lot of like DCI came from VFW, and so a lot of it had to do with the color guard and watching the flag, bringing the flag out. But in the early days we didn't have that, but because of those things, it took a while for things to evolve.
Yeah. You've mentioned Kurt Seville and Sherry Manning. Who are some of the other contemporaries of yours that were directing bands in the state?
Woods Cross, Steve Richards. So there were kind of the top 3 for the last few years was Skyview and Woods Cross and American Fork.
Okay.
Then there were, Davis was strong. Their band director went to the University of Utah, and started up the University of Utah band again.
Okay.
There were, and the Payson. See, from the Southern California, they had a British tradition and also bagpipes.
Oh, wow.
Which is what a lot of the California bands had because of that influence to parade and so on. And so Jerry brought that style of uniform and the bagpipes and the Scottish games, all that kind of stuff. That
Yeah.
all came with him.
Okay.
So there was a little bit of that. I'd have to look at some lists.
Oh yeah, you're totally
to
fine.
name.
You're totally fine. So you took a sabbatical after your time at American Fork, and that was 1 year. Do you want to talk about that, and then kind of what happened? Because to my understanding, there was a new director brought in when you went on your sabbatical, and things didn't go super well, and so you came back to kind of help with a search. Is that
Yeah.
kind of what? Do you want to just talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that whole transition?
Yeah. Well, I taught for 7 or 8 years, and during that time, it got busier and busier. I look back, and there were times that we played for like 22 basketball and football games. I don't know how I stayed alive doing that, and musicals and all that kind of stuff. So I decided that I still wanted to be involved, but I didn't know how I would do in the long run. I knew I couldn't hold on for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't have help. There were no, one of the English teachers taught the pep club, and then later the color guard.
Yeah.
And I had a friend that played in synthesis that came and helped us with drums, like once a week, John Donner. That was it. So it's not like having a staff and having all the finances, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And anyway, I decided at a certain point that I wanted to still keep doing it, but I knew I couldn't do it in the long run. But I did know that I wanted to help other people to be able to do it. And I thought, well, the way to do that is to have at least the business card of another degree in case something came up on the college level. And that's how that happened. I had to come back for a year because they pay you half salary when you're gone for a year. And then if you don't come back for at least 1 year, you have to pay back that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I taught for 8 years, and then was gone the 9th, and then came back for the 10th, and then the BYU job came open.
Okay.
Anyway, that's kind of how that evolved.
And then the BYU job coming open, when you found out about that, had you thought about teaching at the college level prior to that?
Somewhat. It wasn't like a burning desire.
Yeah.
And in fact, I don't know if I should share this, but after I taught for a couple of years at the college level, I really considered going back to teaching high school because you just have a bigger influence on the students, and there's a closeness that you don't have at the college level. At least I didn't ever have.
Yeah.
Because the kids have more to do,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it wasn't something that was burning inside of me, although the more I listened to real heavy pieces and demanding things, I became more enthused with that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, this is what I'm going to do someday. In fact, somebody asked me if I'd go on and get another degree, and I said, heavens no, Yeah, it wasn't that. But but the way it evolved was that they had a director there and an assistant, but he wasn't always with the band. So they were looking for somebody to help with the marching band, and they had a music ed position open. And they just said that what we want to do is hire a music ed teacher that can be a model, and we can't think of a better way to be a model than teaching marching band so all these people can see it work. And I should also include the fact that I think marching band was a big part of my development because you can teach things and think you're teaching them, but lots of people can fake. It's harder to fake out on the marching field, especially the visual things. But even if you're walking around, it's like, why are you playing? So it becomes very noticeable to you, that, who's not making it. And so you have immediate feedback. You know, we would do breathing exercises and long tone exercises. And like, yeah, it's working. And then when we came inside, you know, those carried through. But I don't know if I would have known that much about how I was doing as a teacher if I hadn't have dug into marching band.
Yeah.
So it was a big part of making it more visible to me.
Yeah. And this was 1986?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm assuming a big part of the marching band was being there to support the football program.
It was right after the national championship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So you were there in a very interesting time.
I was, and there wasn't scholarship money back then.
Okay.
So we had about 80% turnover every year, which was really hard.
Yeah.
You know, start over with, you know, most of the band was freshmen.
Oh, wow.
By far.
Yeah.
That was challenging, and coming from all over the country.
Yeah.
And,
And they all have totally different backgrounds
Oh, yeah.
and how they've learned to march and play.
and most of them would like to teach you how it's done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not all of them, but some of them are like, you should go meet my high school teacher. He's a lot better than you.
Oh my gosh.
Especially the kids from Texas, you know, ones that have big programs with lots
Yeah.
of teachers. It's like,
Lots of resources too.
yeah, lots of resources. And, you know, I look back at that and I think, boy, I just was hanging on by my fingernails, you know. Yeah.
And you're not the type to be combative about anything either. So
No, I'm pretty low key.
how did you handle that kind of thing?
I think the kids liked me, although there were some that called me Mr. Gestapo because I was a little more strict. But some of them got, you know, we had some students in the band that had been in for 13 years. They took it as an evening class.
Oh, wow.
So they were like teaching high school places, and then they'd come back and play in the band.
That's interesting.
And so they would criticize me.
I
like,
bet,
"This is-
yeah.
You don't know how it's been here. You know, you don't know what our tradition. And I mean, I didn't in many ways, but I tried to learn. And after a few years, you know, it would always be funny to me when people say, "Have you ever heard of American Fork?" And I'd say, "Yeah." Well, you should see how they do things. I said, "Oh, okay," you know.
You're like, I built that program.
So yeah,
Oh my gosh.
that was always interesting.
That's so fun. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall for that type of conversation and just kind of, because you're such, you know, like you said, you're a low key guy, you're soft spoken, you're humble, but I wish I could have seen your face when they said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
Some interesting times.
Yeah. So aside from, you know, the pre-shows and the halftime shows for the football program, were you doing field shows outside of that, like, you know, the Rocky Mountain competition at BYU? Did you do like exhibition performances there?
Well, at BYU? No. One of the things that we wrestled with was how much time marching band took and gave 1 hour credit.
You know, that's valid.
And so,
That's valid.
in fact, that's how we started getting some scholarship money, because they said, you know, we have people staying in school too long and we can't support this many students. So they're being exploited if they're staying longer than 4 years. And so department chair said, yeah, and the exploitation starts with the marching band. Look at all the time they put in, especially if they go to bowl games. You know,
Yeah.
it was so many times much more time than put in for a 1 hour class.
Yeah.
So that's how we started getting some scholarship help. So along that line, I didn't feel like we should be out taking more time.
Understandable.
So we really didn't do things. I mean, we do an away game and a bowl game, but
And back then, every year was the bowl game, pretty
Yes.
much.
yes,
But good times for the football program, for sure.
yeah, it was. Yeah, and yeah, a lot of the people that were there to support the team. I can remember a few that tried to bring books to read because they didn't like football. You know,
Oh, yeah.
try to sneak a book in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it was it was fun supporting the team and
Yeah.
some great people. And Lavelle was good to us. We used to have him come and talk to the band. And, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Good times.
Yeah. Did you have a like an actual working relationship with Lavelle and with the other coaches?
But with Lavelle,
Yeah.
I think a couple of things about Lavelle. One is that he would always tell the students that the relationships that they had built they would remember them forever, because he could tell about his time playing football at Utah State, and he would tell us how he would sneak out of the locker room during halftime while the other coaches were talking and come out to see part of the band show.
Really?
Yeah, and then he told us what his favorite songs were and some things like that. But the other thing the other story that is pretty funny, as I remember it, is when he retired. We would always play the fight song for him when he came.
Yeah.
When he retired, we gave him a certificate, a plaque with a whistle on it.
Oh, cool.
And it said, anytime you want to hear the fight song, here's your whistle. And so I said, at the end I said, do you want to start him? He said, I don't know how to do that. I said, it's easy. You just go tweet, 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 dun, dun, dun. He says, that's all? I said, yeah. He said, okay. And he goes, tweet, 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 tweet. And then they played it. He says, your job's pretty easy, Peterson. So, yeah, I had some good times with him.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's awesome.
He was a good man.
Yeah. Nowadays, and for a long time now, the marching band at BYU will do like a pregame entry thing where they'll come out and they'll play a routine. Is that something that you did at the time there? Was that developed a little bit later?
No, the Saints was when I was there.
Okay. Was that there before you got there?
No.
You brought it? Or did you?
Yeah.
Okay, that was you. Cool.
Randall Beach was there with me doing drumline.
Okay.
Amazing teacher. But we thought, what better thing to come down the field with? And they've altered it a bit since then.
They have.
Yeah.
I was lucky in the one semester I did marching band, which was the semester after you stopped doing marching band and Fred took over.
Yeah.
I still got to do that original pregame show, and man, I would get that music stuck in my head relentlessly. But I loved the arrangement of When the Saints Come Marching In.
Well, it was fun, and not many people say much about college marching band, but people would occasionally say, "Yeah, what better thing to come down the field playing?"
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. And then when we did bowl games in California, sometimes we'd play at Disneyland, and it was fun to come out into the park, playing that.
Like from the castle, you'd walk out into the park.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was there a halftime show as well that you would do, or was it mostly playing? Like what were the halftime field shows like?
Well, usually there were 6 home games, and we would do usually 4 separate shows, and then the other 2 were kind of mixed up parts of each.
Yeah.
And we would face, that was the hard thing, because you had people on both sides.
Right, yeah.
The students would always say, can we just face this way, because we don't want to face the geriatric way, because they face the student side and they would get bigger response than they face the old people. So we reverse things. We do part of the show facing this way and then part of it facing the next way. But then when we did Rocky Mountain, it had to be all done the same way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you do, when you say 4 different shows, were they
completely different music and?
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's another interesting thing, because the one other director I was pretty close to was Steve Richards from Woods Cross, and he was always pretty critical. He'd say, how can you have so many good players there and not be more precise? And then he took over the University of Utah marching band for a couple of years, and he said, I had no idea. Just the time that you have. And
yeah.
That's
really kind of the biggest limitation for the college marching band, I guess band and bands in general, is that high schools could spend a lot more time, doing working on that precision, a lot more time than a college band can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What were some challenges aside from the time thing and the scholarship thing? Like what sort of challenges did you deal with as the director of the marching band at BYU?
Well, there were challenges dealing with parts of athletic department, their wishes, and it was sometimes hurtful to the band when the kicker comes out and kicks the ball into the middle of the band, and can't imagine why we're out on the field.
Yeah,
those kinds of things.
And that still happens to this day everywhere. You see it all the time.
Yeah, I know. That's always demoralizing, because the students feel like I'm doing this to help the school, and then what do I get? I can imagine what it's like now, knowing what the football players are getting financially.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
You really feel dejected.
Yeah.
But there were always people that made you feel right. From administration, they come out and talk and tell them how much it was appreciated. And many people in the School of Music don't hold the marching band in very high esteem because of the time it takes and the volume that they play.
Yeah.
So it's pretty hard to hit that hard, and then having people speak disparagingly of you as your colleague, like, why are you doing that, ruining these kids and getting them tired so they can't play, and those kind of things.
Yeah.
The rewarding things. Often it was students who hadn't really marched before. One story I was remembering the other day, I had a girl that I watched her while we were rehearsing, and I thought, man, she hates being here. She's like her trombone and walking funny, and I'd sit and I'd think, I need to just go tell her that if she doesn't want to be here, we're okay without her. And I thought better of it, and then we went to a dance hall for parties at that time, and then we'd watch the video of the game. And she came in to watch it like 3 times. People would take their turn and come in and watch it, and she would stay there the whole time. I said, are you okay? What are you doing? And she said, oh, this is the most amazing thing I've ever done in my whole life. And I said, really? And she said, yeah, we have 13 in my high school band.
Oh, wow.
And this is so big time to me. But I read it as being, I don't like being here. But she said, this is the most amazing thing I've done in my whole life. Taught me that I need to not judge.
Yeah. I bet you're glad you didn't go and say that to her initially.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes when you're tired, you get short and don't bite your lip enough.
Yeah.
Back then, I didn't bite my lip. Now with Parkinson's, I bite it more often. Yeah.
I love these like anecdotes, personal stories. Are there any other stories that you can remember of experiences with the marching band?
Here's one. Victor Neves. Do you know Victor?
I've heard the name. I don't know him.
Victor was a student in American Fork, and a big guy, and this was the early years of American Fork, and he kind of loved watching, be in the back room watching videos, beta tapes of DCI show.
Yeah.
But he struggled out on the field, and he had some kind of interesting friends at times too. And anyway, I was on his case a lot. I'd be on the tower, which wasn't much of a tower back then. But I'd be on the tower and I'd say, "Victor, your other left." You know, and march for a while.
Yeah.
Tuba player, "Victor, your other left." You know, and I thought, well, it's probably a good experience for him. And then he was gone. He moved.
Oh, okay.
And then the next thing I know, I get a picture in the mail, and he's in a Phantom Regiment
Whoa.
uniform. And he was kind of a big star in the
Oh
Phantom
my
Regiment.
gosh.
Yeah.
He figured out his other left, I guess.
Yes. And I always remember, I mean, I always share that with people because it's like, don't judge, you know,
Oh yeah.
because you don't know how fast people are going to go and what it really means to them.
Yeah. That's awesome. Wow.
And it ended up, he came back and was a great drill rider. He just passed away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
About spring 2 years ago, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, died of cancer. But he was a music educator in Salt Lake. But he wrote drill for University of Utah.
That must be how I know his name, because I've definitely heard his name, but I don't believe I've ever met him.
Yeah, he wrote drill for bands around the country.
Okay. So he made it his whole life after that.
Yeah. Yeah, he taught junior high band and then wrote drill all summer. And then wrote some for us at BYU and then always did the combined one. Yeah.
The combined one being with the University of Utah when you would...
Yeah, that tradition, yeah.
And was Steve working the University of Utah Marching Band at the same time that you were at BYU for a little bit?
Yeah, for a little bit.
Okay, so you got to collaborate.
I think he did it 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that fun, like having a friend at the rival school?
Yeah. Yeah. They ended their marching band at Woods Cross.
Okay, yeah.
And so they didn't have one. And anyway, so that's when he did the University of Utah.
Gotcha. And
I don't believe he died of cancer too.
Oh, okay. I don't believe Woods Cross has had a marching band program since then.
Oh, no.
Okay. That's interesting. Let's talk some more about your former students. I think there's a lot of them. There's many former students. How has it felt over the years to see a lot of your former students go on to be band directors themselves and music educators?
It's been neat. Yeah, you like to think that you helped. I mean, you know, teaching and being able to teach someone how to fish, to feed themselves.
Yeah.
And teaching and seeing them succeed is really rewarding. I get a bigger charge out of watching people succeed than I do watching myself. I mean, how do I put it? You know, I don't see myself as a conductor and think, "Ooh, that looks cool." And, you know, I had a friend who's no longer with us too. And he used to say that. He said, "Don't you just get up and think, how would I look conducting this piece?" And I had to honestly say, I thought, how am I going to get through this piece? And how am I going to make sure that it sounds okay?
Who cares what I look like?
Yeah. I mean, there's a high that comes from doing something that's very challenging and technically difficult and seeing everybody succeed and you nailing it so that they nail it.
Yeah.
But it's never been as impressive to me as watching others do it.
Yeah.
So I haven't, you know, practiced a lot of moves in the mirror. Yeah. Watching people teach has been very rewarding.
Nice.
I mean, I had some amazing students that have gone on to be CEOs of major corporations and major general in the Air Force and you know, watching them succeed in these things. I think it was a class of 1980. They made me a plaque that just talked about the legends, well, not the legends, but the legacy of of many people is this and that. But the legacy of a teacher is not just the student, but what they become and how it carries on through the ages.
Yeah.
That meant a lot to me when I think there was they were supposed to name who was their most influential teacher, and I guess a number of them had mentioned me and brought me back to maybe 20 years.
Wow.
You know, for the reunion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must have felt good.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I'll go out and visit or be somewhere and have people say, this was an influential teacher, and I have to think back and say, I guess I may have helped. You know, yeah, there's been a lot of those experiences.
Do you routinely hear from former students and see them and get to speak with them?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm not out in the trenches as much anymore by any means, but going to Midwest Clinic and things like that.
Yeah.
And here's another one. Do you know Bartley Nichols?
Yeah.
Okay. Bartley he wrote me, well, he used to be in the stands at BYU, and he'd come out, I don't know, when I would go down to do awards, he'd come out and grab me and say, do you remember me? And I said, yeah, Bartley. He was a great, great kid. Always kind of a clown, you know.
Yeah.
But he would tell me that my kids are in band, and thanks for it. And he wrote me just before his heart transplant and said, you know, I look back at what you did for me. Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to see students go, you know, and for you, it's been several that you've seen.
Yeah.
But I think it's beautiful that he was able to express what you meant to him, and I'm sure that means the world to you.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that comes with Parkinson's is you don't have control over your emotions. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Bartley was at American Fork as well. Was he a student?
He wasn't at BYU. He was at American Fork.
Oh, at American Fork.
Yeah.
So you were his teacher at American Fork. Okay.
Yeah. In fact, he and another guy, can't remember which one it was, but I remember I was pretty poor back in those days. It may have been another guy. I won't mention his name, but I remember coming into rehearsal once, and I realized I wore the same clothes a lot because we didn't have much money. We had, you know, quite a few kids too.
Yeah.
And I remember getting up ready to conduct one day, and Mr. Peterson, yeah, what do you need? Did you get a new belt? And I said, yes, I did. It's reversible, and let me show you.
It's reversible.
Yeah. But it was like, I was kind of off the wall, but it was, you know, funny memories like that.
Yeah.
So that's when I knew I must be wearing the same clothes a lot.
They noticed the belt.
Yeah, I get a new belt.
What's different about you? It's
Yeah.
got to be the belt.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. Tell me about how as your career evolved. Tell me about your family, and how they were kind of a part of you as you progressed through your career.
Yeah. Well, they've always been supportive. First of all, my wife is an amazing musician and an amazing person. And I get to experience that a lot now.
Yeah.
But I remember her mother interviewing me when we were getting married. Mm-hmm. She said, how are you going to support her? I said, I don't know, but I will. And
It's about the most honest answer you can give.
yeah,
Right there.
that's as honest as I could be. And my father-in-law, you know, he said, well, he was an orchestra teacher.
Oh, wow.
But they had 11 kids, so he later became an administrator.
Okay.
So he could afford those kids.
Yeah.
But he would say, you know, you can teach band for a while, but you may want to go into counseling or administration or something to make it better financially. Mm-hmm. But Diane was always perfect about it. We'll make it work. You know, it's important what you do.
Yeah.
And you're making a difference. And that's meant the world to me, you know. My kids, quite supportive, especially when they were young, because they just loved being around the band. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I mean, we had, I guess, our fifth when I started at BYU. So we had our sixth and seventh. But they, you know, they would be out on the drum major podium chasing each other. And one of them, when I was at Arizona State, got injured on a football machine, you know.
Oh.
Yeah. So they've had a lot of experiences around it. I do have one memory, though. We lived in a pretty affluent area, and my oldest son had some friends that had quite a bit of money. And one day, and exasperated, he said, "Why should I be punished for the sin of you choosing to be the kind of doctor that doesn't make money?"
Oh my God.
It was hard. It was like, oh, I think I'm doing some good, you know. But in general, they were good about it.
Okay, good.
And
It's just that one brutal moment, right?
yeah, yeah. And you know, we did have some lean times, but they've been supportive and you know, my last concert at BYU was during COVID. Nobody could come, but they came in. We had masks on in between numbers, and we just streamed the concert. But they, you know, those, I guess there were some spouses there, but about 10 people in the audience.
Oh my
quiet.
gosh. Oh. And that was your retirement concert.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, but no, the family's been involved a lot. You know, I also was involved with Utah Ambassadors of Music, so I was able to take some of our kids to go to Europe and experience that.
Yeah. And how many of your kids ended up playing instruments?
Well, all of them played it at one time, and they do different things. You know, I have one that's an artist. One is a businessman. All of them played somewhat. My daughter that was born in Arizona, Chelsea, she played in Philharmonic Orchestra.
Okay.
She was going to go into, she has perfect pitch like her mother. She was going to go into music performance, but she was injured from a inflatable bag, ripped her thumbs back when she was in an accident. She still plays violin, but she can't do it for very long. So she had to change to elementary ed. So they've all played a bit, but none, you know, has gone on to be a professional or stayed in the field.
But it was definitely part of their early influence and growing up.
And one of my other sons played trumpet in the Cougar Band, and another one played in the drum line.
Nice.
Yeah.
So they got the experience at least.
Yeah, they got. Yeah. And growing up, for me being at home grading, conducting exams, I'd watch video and they'd hear these pieces over and over again.
Yeah.
And they could you could give the first three notes of a piece and they could sing the rest of it for you.
Yeah.
Or when we played Oklahoma, they all could sing that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sooner Boomer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, they have memories.
I bet.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to interview them and say what was life like growing up with all of this stuff.
Yeah.
You've done a lot more in your career than just marching band, and I know this is all about the marching arts. But what led to ending your time with the Cougar Marching Band, and pretty much were you offered the position of director of bands at that point? Because I know that you were conducting the symphonic band. What else were you doing around that time when you left the Cougar Marching Band?
Well, you know, I took that music ed slot and did it with marching band, and so those were kind of attached. but college marching band is not an old man's job. So as time went on, and stresses, and I had kind of a breakdown where I was writing shows at night and got lost in the Fine Arts Center.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I started having Bell's palsy, and so they pulled back a number of things, and then we talked about, is there a time that we could reduce my load? Actually, my wife talked to them about it, but when it came time for Dave to leave, there was going to be a music ed position and then the director of band's position. And I enjoyed studying conducting, and something I thought would be real neat. But I couldn't do both at the same time. So Fred was the assistant, and they asked him to take it and do it by himself. Well, not by himself, but without me.
Yeah.
So it was a promotion, but I tried to remain pretty close to the band and follow them. And
Yeah.
next week I'll go out and watch them rehearse.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, if I can make it up the stairs. Yeah.
It's a pretty big art. Do they rehearse in the stadium sometimes?
Once.
Yeah.
Once a year.
Oh, that's all they get?
Yeah.
Just the once. Yeah, they're pretty protective of that field.
Oh,
huh?
yeah. Sacred ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we used to have to take our shoes off.
No way.
Yeah.
You know what? I remember this. And I remember the one rehearsal we had. It was a night rehearsal, and we had to all take our shoes. I remember that.
Yeah.
Wow. I snuck a football into that
Oh.
rehearsal with me. And
Just so you could say.
just so I could say I threw a touchdown pass in
Yeah.
LaVell Edwards Stadium. Yeah, yeah. So when you kind of stepped away from the marching band, was it the symphonic band that you mostly, like day-to-day conducting and working with groups? Was it just the symphonic band, or were there other groups that you were working with?
Well, I taught 2 or 3 music ed classes and
Okay.
supervised student teachers.
Yeah.
And then a conducting class, a young conducting class, and then a practicum class. So I taught a lot of different things. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you enjoy the I never did get to I wanted to take conducting, and that would have been later on in the music ed program, I think. But what do you like about teaching conducting in particular?
The connection. Interesting thing about that is that we have a 135 and a 235. One is for non-majors and one's for majors.
Interesting.
And the first one I taught was 235, and so they went through some literature and so on. And then they said, "You'll really enjoy 135." I was surprised, but the reason is that 135 students, ones that were not majors but were minors, they were a lot more free because it wasn't their livelihood. It's like different,
Interesting.
Yeah. And then the ones that were really very professional on their instrument,
Yeah.
they couldn't handle not being good at things. So it's like paralysis through analysis.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was fun working with them, and when they get something and look just like the music, and then they watch a video of themselves, they go, "Wow." I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah. So there's teaching conducting. What do you enjoy most about conducting an ensemble?
That it's a living organism,
Yeah.
That it grows. It's not like a recording. So you start it, and it could change the tempo here, or you could make a bigger crescendo here.
Yeah.
That is an art, not that it's set. It's not like memorizing something and giving the answers.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot.
My brother Nathan played trombone your final semester in the marching band. And I was on my mission still, but he showed me a video when I got home of it was a pregame show. And they're playing, and all of a sudden you see this shadow cross the band, and it was a parachuter.
Yep.
Do you remember this?
Oh, yes.
And the parachute guy landed like right in the middle of the marching band.
Yes. Yeah, it was
What were you-
right in between. Yeah, I remember watching it and thinking, you're kidding. Because, they do the timings, and that's where a lot of the stress comes from, because they're up there and saying, okay, you got this long, go,
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was, this is when the person's going to get out, and then all of a sudden we're on the field, and then you see this. It's like, oh, man. Yeah.
Hopefully he didn't. I don't know that he knocked anyone over.
No,
but
he went right in between some files. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was real nerve-wracking. Yes.
So I might leave that one in. That was pretty funny. And then my personal recollection was from a symphonic band, and we were in the concert hall, and it was right before a concert, but it was a rehearsal, and we were recording. And it was probably the best we'd ever played it. And the release was just perfect. And then as soon as you cut us off, and it's still echoing, a flute player's phone went off really loud. And so it ruined the ending.
Yeah.
But I remember, because you were feeling the moment, and you were like, you just released. And then I just remember you, like you just looked at her like, oh, why is your phone off?
Yeah, we had one of those during a concert too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, clarinet player. Yeah.
One other memory. We were playing Ghost Train by Eric Whitacre, and it was in the concert. And right at the end of that song, it's this really fast dig, 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 da, fire alarm goes off, and they had to evacuate the concert hall. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
And luckily it was our last piece. Like, that was the end of the concert. But what a bang! What a way to go out there.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of those memories.
Yeah. Those are just a couple of mine. I'm sure you have so many. But while we're on, do you have any favorite either funny or light memories that come to mind that you want to talk about? And it doesn't need to be marching band either.
Yeah. This one is kind of interesting. He's an institute teacher now, but he was a music ed major. And we had a girl lose her French horn music. And so we come to rehearsal and it's not there. It's like, so searching everywhere, and they searched and searched. Finally come for the concert, still on music, and there's no copies anywhere.
Oh, no.
And so I just said, well, we're going to do what we can. And this kid came up to me afterwards. He said, he told me later, in later years, but he said, I still look back at that. And he says, I'm amazed that you didn't just blow up, because I'd never had a teacher that didn't just go ballistic. And he said, I remember you said to us, well, there's nothing we can do now except do our best. And he said that meant a lot to me, that, and I didn't really I said, well, what good would it have done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not all teachers are so good at analyzing that moment and being like, getting angry won't help.
So one of the kids on the way out said, I can't believe you didn't blow up. And I said, well, what good would it have done?
Yeah.
He said, it doesn't matter if it would have done any good. You needed to blow up. And I said, well, it wouldn't have helped anything.
You need to be more angry at me.
Yeah.
Curtis Winters, we interviewed him just last week.
I saw that.
And he talked about you briefly, and that one thing that he really appreciated about you is that he couldn't think of a single time where you lost your cool or came down with a heavy hammer or anything. Would you talk about your approach to, not blowing up and handling situations that come up without, getting angry and yelling and that kind of thing?
Well, a couple of thoughts about that. One is that emotions are important, but they shouldn't rule the day. So if you're going to blow up, it better be for something good. No.
Right.
So I would often talk to the students about it's a daily thing, and it's whether you bring your best. And it was the 12 orange story. I don't know if you know this.
I don't think I do.
Oh, I used to share it all the time. But
Okay.
Tim Lotzenheiser, when he first started, this is like in 1974 or
Okay.
75. Anyway,
Dr. Tim, as he's
Dr.
known.
Tim, yeah. He would talk about, he's so good at getting people to get below the surface. And he would say, now, you go to the store and this guy goes into the store and pays for 12 oranges. Then on his way out, he sneaks and only takes 10. He's on his way out to the parking lot. I got away. I didn't take all 12. And it's like, that's crazy. And then he would give other examples. And he'd say, so when you don't get everything you can out of a rehearsal, are you going out of rehearsal thinking, hey, nobody knows it, but I only took 7 today.
Interesting.
And I
like
said,
that.
so I would say to the students, I would say, let's make sure we have 12 orange rehearsals. And I still remember putting on the board there at AF, it said, I would put up how many oranges I thought the rehearsal was. And some kid wrote 12 oranges, and an upperclassman went up and erased it. And I remember the first time that we all thought it was a 12 orange rehearsal. And so I would talk along those lines. We can be all as excited as we want, but if we haven't put in the practices, we haven't been getting our 12 oranges, we can't expect the performance is going to have it. So along that line is, if we have to get screaming and yelling at each other to get something to happen, it's not worth it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. If it's gotten to that point, there's not a lot of hope that it's going to be productive. Yeah.
So that's along the same line,
Absolutely. With your rehearsals, in general, how much of it was spent talking about things and teaching about things that weren't directly related to the music? And kind of like how you were saying with teaching how to get the most out of a rehearsal isn't really a musical thing, but
Right.
It's a life thing. And how much of your teaching was about that stuff?
Oh, I think the most important things that I've learned in life were probably not directly involved in music, but those principles are true.
Yeah.
And because they're true, they work. And I think the longer I taught, the more I realized that, these other things have to be lined up.
Yeah.
Because if the only way to get students to play well or to keep the line straight or whatever is you berating them, there's a problem.
Yeah.
There was a time when teachers were ruthless. Ravelli was known for being that way. Tell people the best thing that could happen to this group is never hold another rehearsal. And I watched him work once, a couple of times, but people used to accept that and say, "Boy, if you," and the idea was if you can make the first clarinet cry, then you have a good rehearsal.
Oh my.
And we had one of those. Laurel Shelley, do you know Laurel?
Yeah.
I remember we had somebody come work with the band. I won't tell you who it was, but could you try that again? Is that your best sound? I mean, this. So by the time,
Yeah.
by the time she was in tears and everybody else was really trying their best, but that's not the end.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've tried not to be that person.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, when I worked in that music store, we had a teacher that was that same style, and the students would come in and he'd blow up at them. And I remember once he had Ray Smith's brother. He forgot his practice chart.
Uh-oh.
So he said, "Stand on that chair, pull up your shirt." And he took out a ballpoint pen and wrote the assignment because the guy didn't have his practice chart to write the assignment.
Wow.
And embarrassed the kid a lot. So when I was starting to go into teaching, they said, "Well, why do you want to do it?" And I said, "I want to do it because I want to show it can be done in another way." And that's I guess kind of what sent me off on that
Wow.
path, because I wanted people to experience things, but not from fear.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Because you had experienced that style. Did aside from that, did you have any other teachers that
I had some that were pretty rough.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is kind of the product of the time. I think that's
Oh yeah, that's how people got things done.
philosophy was different,
Yeah. We've kind of gone the other extreme,
Yeah.
where the whole group would walk out if you did that.
Yeah. I was going to say that guy might get assault charges for writing on his
Yeah.
stomach.
Yeah.
I think the pivot I want to make right now is I'd like to hear your thoughts and insight on the marching arts in today's world, now that you're a good bit removed from the teaching side of it. What are you observing, that type of thing?
Okay. I'm really impressed with much of what's happening. But when you're old, you kind of yearn for the old days in some ways. Years ago, many people didn't go into doing marching band because it was so competitive. And in fact, I remember vividly, in American Fork, we took second at this thing. And the other bands would, especially one of them, would start like their music in February, and we'd start just before school started, and then do the show from there. And this mother came up to me and she said, "Well, now that you know you're not going to be first, what are you going to do? Are you still going to have a marching band?"
Oh my.
I said, "Yeah." She said, "Really?" And I was shocked. She said, "Well, if you're not going to win, then why are you doing this?" And that bothered me a lot.
As it should.
Yeah, and I said, "Well, I'm not going to start the shows that early. We're not going to have it be our whole life." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Because that's not the only thing we're doing, and it's not the only thing in their lives."
Yeah.
So what worries me a little bit is that some people, they want to have huge staff. I mean, some of them probably wouldn't even need to come to rehearsals. If I didn't make it to rehearsal, we didn't have a rehearsal,
Yeah.
And then all that money that goes into it.
Yeah.
I worry that some kids are excluded because of the money or because of the time. And I think everybody should be able to experience it. Another kind of related story. Years ago, we had a girl that had, from France, had been at BYU, and they wanted to start a group over in France. We brought some flags for them and so on. And I remember going out to lunch with them, with these other people. They didn't speak English, but she did. They said, "How did you get into music? How were you chosen?" I said, "Well, they passed out a flyer and said, 'Come this day.'" And
Yeah.
they looked at me and said, "Everybody?" I said, "Yeah." And they started crying. They said, "We couldn't do that unless we were selected to be musicians."
Oh, wow.
And I said, I started crying. It was just like, wow. And then I realized how blessed we are, That gets back to the same thing about, I think everybody deserves to be in a good program. But I see the ones that are real small and, and I wonder how devastating that is to them. It becomes such a disparity between the top and the bottom. I worry about that a lot.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the good things, there are so many people to learn from. There's so many resources. The community is great. We have all these people that are out there to help. And all the resources on, you could just sit on your computer and watch YouTubes, and
Yeah.
there's just so many things there that are available. And the other thing, I look back at like UMEA. I was involved pretty early on. We used to have a UMEA conference in Salt Lake, and there'd be about 100 people there. When they moved to St. George, the golfing, no.
Yeah.
When they moved to St. George, it became much more popular, and I long for those. I see all those people cooperating with each other and learning from each other, and it makes me jealous, So I just think helping each other, that's important, and I'd like to see. I love the many things about marching band. I miss hearing music that goes all the way through a piece, because it's arranged for hits and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But that's another publishing problem too, is that it's so hard to get permission to do arrangements and so on. So those are things that I long for,
Yeah.
But I'm excited about what things are out there. I hope it doesn't get so far that it loses so many people it could have helped.
Yeah.
And so many teachers, People would say, "Well, why would I want to do it unless I'm going to win?" It's not fair.
What an interesting mindset. And I understand that people get very competitive, and if they can't win, they don't want to do it. And I think that's a very common human thing. Something that has to be overcome, I think. But we were just talking with Paul Lehman yesterday, and he essentially said something very similar to what you said, where his main concern is that kids are being priced out of this opportunity to do marching band. And for those bigger groups, especially that are going out of the state and just have a lot of a big show and hiring designers and arrangers, you can easily get above $1,000 to $2,000 per student, in fees, and sometimes more than that at those larger bands. And I know that the directors are able to fundraise and find money for families that aren't able to do it, but it still is definitely a hurdle, and sometimes it's just not possible for a kid to be involved, and that really kind of defeats the purpose of it,
Yeah.
Was that something that you had to deal with much at American Fork?
No, but I mean, we didn't have a budget based on, needing to pay salaries or anything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the most expensive trip we ever went on, of course, this is in '78, I think it was like $200 to go to the Calgary Stampede.
Mm.
And we used to go to California, and those were, less than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I worry about that.
Yeah.
And as parents, our kids couldn't have done. Our kids went to TimView, but they didn't ever have those kind of fees. And
Yeah. Have you, come across or thought of any sort of possible solutions to that problem?
no, I think some of it's fed by, I listened to Curtis's thing. Some of it's fed by breaking down into more categories so that everybody gets awards.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the hard part. I mean, it was fine. We were winning lots of things at American Fork when I was there, but we only took first a couple of times.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just didn't have that kind of budget. And I used to look at the Texas band directors and think, what would it be like to have an assistant? Kurt was at Lehigh, and I was at American Fork, and we used to go back and forth and do brass and woodwind. But to have all that help, is expensive.
Yeah.
And I realized the philosophy is, well, this is all we need, and we'll divide it up, and that's how much it's going to cost for everybody. But it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's the same thing with drum corps, Have to feed that big horse.
Yeah. Well, and that's probably the number one reason that people don't get to do drum corps is because of the cost.
Right. Yeah, and I think back about at American Fork, we had Santa Clara come stay there, and
Nice.
Spirit of Atlanta, and the thing I remember about, I think it was Spirit. They come in and have like 4 hours of sleep, and I came back, and kids are out in the parking lot. And it's like, because it's before they're supposed to get off the gym floor.
Okay.
These kids are standing there, and they said, "Do you see that?" I said, "Yeah." And they were looking at the mountain. They said, "Sun's going to come up over that mountain." I don't want to miss it.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, well, we see it all the time. It doesn't mean that
Right.
much to us anymore. We're spoiled.
Going back a little bit to BYU and the marching band, and you mentioned this, that they've definitely evolved quite a bit in the last 20 years since you left. Can you talk about just what you've observed of how that program has shifted and evolved, and just your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think they've done really well in many areas. There was a little while that they went kind of towards the competitive thing and went down to St. George, and they asked me what I thought. I said, I worry about the time, and I worry about doing the same show so many times to get it ready. But I think Fred's done a good job trying to balance those things. At a time when things are always changing in the stadium because of needing to make money, and they've repeated some of the pieces that we've done over the years. When they had the 40th anniversary or whatever. The discipline is very high. They get meals now, and those kinds of things, you know, once you give those to people, and you look back and say, gosh, we used to get a granola bar,
Yeah.
and we used to have our, when it started raining, we'd have to run under the Marriott Center
That's right.
overhang,
Yeah.
you know. But once you have that nice room, and you don't have to run the rehearsals out of your trunk, you know, it's easy to get comfortable with those things.
Yeah.
But I think he's done a good job keeping them, you know, humble and working hard and focused.
Did you do all of the marching band rehearsals in that parking lot next to the Marriott Center?
Yes.
And you did that the whole time that you were there? Because that's where they were doing it when I was there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and what happened, the reason they had to move back, see, years ago, when I was in school, they rehearsed down across from the stadium. And then they moved them up to the Marriott Center parking lot. But the reason they moved back is that they built the broadcasting building.
That's right. Yeah.
So they said, well, trying to figure out where we're going to do this. And so that's when they went back.
But that's where they originally used to rehearse.
They used to rehearse there, yeah.
Okay. It's kind of going back to their roots a little bit.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you enjoy the whole game day experience when you were leading the marching band? Or was it stressful?
It was stressful.
It was.
You know, my doctor from American Fork, Dr. Murdoch, I don't know if you ever knew him. He was our doctor until just a few years ago. I would go in and he'd say, I watch you at games. He said, I don't know how long you're going to last. You look stressed.
Oh, man.
And there was a lot of that. You know, you're worried about this happening or that happening. Yeah.
Well, and to my understanding, during the games, you have NCAA regulations when it comes to the band and when it can play and when it cannot play.
Yeah,
Was that something?
You have those, but then what's been more stressful is that they're selling commercial time, so they don't give you enough time to play. You know.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And you're going, well, what about us?
Yeah.
And we went through some years where they would play the same music we were playing on the sound board. Yeah.
Yes.
There's nothing like being a band parent to teach you what marching band is like, you know.
Yeah.
Because they develop an appreciation, whereas many other people don't really know what's going on. I have a kind of a funny anecdote that when I left American Fork and went to BYU, my neighbors were like, oh, I can't imagine anything better than getting free football tickets and still getting to do music. And I thought, well, there's more to it than that. And then at church, somebody saying, boy, I sat up in the seats up. The band made a start. Do you think they knew that was coming? And I said, what? I said, do they know where they're going when they stop and start? And I say, yeah, they do. Really? You know, so you deal with that, and you think, man, no wonder we have problems. I had another person follow me after we played Notre Dame. We played their fight song for them, and followed me down the street, screaming at me, telling me we're supposed to make them uncomfortable. What kind of an idiot are you? You're ruining.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So people have answers, you know. And Les Mis show, and they're like, what was the French flag doing out there?
Oh my goodness.
And so I think helping people be aware of what band is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like at AF now, but I know when I was there, you know, they didn't love doing parades, but they knew that's where a lot of people saw them.
Yeah.
One of the guys he and his brother are both doctors. They used to have shirts that they would wear underneath their uniforms that would say, I hate parades. But I think helping people to understand what it is instead of just being the nerds, you know, anything that they can do to help people learn what it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that the whole what people think about being in parades hasn't changed a whole lot.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's a visibility thing, and it's getting out in front of the community, and that's important. And that's what it's very Americana, the marching band, patriotism, that type of thing. It's all kind of connected, and it also helps with the conditioning aspect. You get out into the summer before the marching band season starts, and
Right.
you have that opportunity to put in the hard, grueling work a little bit early.
Yeah, we started. I don't remember what year it was, but we started going to Clear Creek and doing camp there, even though it was just gravel and whatever. But
Yeah.
but it helped being away and helped them to become closer. But the other thing is by the time they'd done those parades, I didn't have to yell Victor or other left so many times
Yeah.
at people, because it becomes more natural after you've done it. So I think it achieves the purpose. I get people that say, "Can you believe American forks in those uniforms? How cruel can they be?"
You mean those wool uniforms in
yeah,
the middle of the
yeah,
summer? Yeah.
yeah.
I'm curious about your thoughts and this is talking more about like the evolution of the marching arts, but speaking of uniforms, you've seen a lot of bands now kind of adopt the DCI style of having a new uniform every year.
Right.
And it's obviously a much lighter and a much more breathable fabric
And cheaper.
And cheaper. And I think you do have a lot of people that are like, back in my day, this is how it was done, and that's the right way to do marching band. And then you have people that are trying to progress the activity forward. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, a number of things have changed. If you look there in the showcase there at American Fork, the first uniform that we did is the one with the caveman on the back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And it was an overlay, and then you take that off, and it was the tux, a red tux.
That I didn't know, but that's cool.
Yeah, so that's what people had. They would have the uniform, and then they use it for concert band, and then also for marching band. But they were hot, And then the other thing, we started out with those big cotton, looked like a cotton swab.
Yeah, a Q-tip.
They absorbed a lot of sound. The next uniform we went to was kind of Santa Clara look. And that's when we developed the logo to the AF logo. And, it looks pretty similar to what BYU does.
Yeah, so the trumpet, yeah.
Yeah, it was John Taylor, the one that designed the first one, and then Hales, his wife's name is Callie. Anyway, he did the BYU, and we tried a number of things.
Yeah.
And then I said, let's try something with a trumpet. And so we ended up with that one.
Yeah. My humble opinion is that is one of the best logos I've seen anywhere. I think it's just a perfect logo.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I gave it to Oren, but we voted on what logo it should be. John Taylor was a drummer in synthesis.
Okay.
And he's Taylor Graphics. And he taught a cartooning class at American Fork in the evening.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so he put those together, and then we've joked about that a few times over the years. He said, "Boy, that's got a lot of play over the years."
Yeah.
Colors have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's still, the first one, the logo was AF, so this would be the A and then the F.
Yeah.
So this was stairs for the drum majors.
Okay.
Stairs up this one side, and then there was a box.
Okay.
And in fact, I told the students once that if they did something really well, I would jump out of the box. So I was inside of it wasn't a real box, it was open on one side.
Okay.
So they did a halftime show at a football game, and then it got to the end, and I pushed the F over and jumped out.
That was awesome.
That was pretty fun. But that was the first logo, and then the other one that did never, well, I've seen some things that are reminiscent of it, but Brad Goodwin designed one that was a fork with stars and stripes in it.
Okay.
You know, so
An American
fork. Yeah. Yeah, but the people have liked that logo over the years, and then a lot of people have adapted things that are pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have their current version of it is slightly. It's the same essential design, just a little bit adjusted a little bit, but
Yeah, modernized a little bit.
Modernized. Yeah. There's, like I was saying, there's a lot of people that kind of see that marching band and DCI and BOA bands especially are becoming more and more of a production. There's a lot more dancing. There's a lot more visual than there used to be. Do you have any strong opinions on
Well,
on how
I think
that's
the one
changing?
thing that when I first learned about DCI and the identity that groups had, like the Madison Scouts were explorer uniforms,
Yeah.
and Phantom Regiment had the capes, and so those things. I mean, they could do variations on them, but even look back at the Russian show that Santa Clara did when they walked through and they came out in different colored pants.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what year that was. I think that I miss that identity a little bit, but I'm not going to say people shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started, many of the bands still had spats. Yeah, white spats that they buckle over their shoes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You still see some of the Big Ten.
I think Ohio State
Yeah,
does that
yeah.
still.
And then maybe
Michigan
Purdue too.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had those at American Fork at first,
Oh,
and
wow.
then people moved to darker shoes because it doesn't show up the inconsistencies as much.
Blends in a little more.
Yeah. So I guess I think, boy, you're going through uniforms fast.
Yeah.
And then, you see a group, it's like, well, who are these guys? Like Blue Coats this year is like,
I don't see any blue. I don't see any
I
coats.
don't see, yeah, no blue, no coats.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I miss some of that, but also, they become art productions more than marching band shows. So
This kind of takes me back to the thought that you had when you first went and saw DCI with Kurt, and you were like, "This is something that a lot of people can be involved." And I think that my personal opinion is that the more of a production it is, the more you can attract more and more people to the activity. People that might not necessarily be all in for the music aspect, but might love the production aspect of it, for example. Right. And either way, you're getting more and more people into the marching arts,
Yeah. I think maybe people miss a little bit the signatures of the groups.
Right.
Troopers always had the starburst, sunburst, whatever.
Yeah.
And now they sneak it in every once in a while because it reminiscent,
like an Easter egg.
Yeah. Those things, if you change uniforms all the time and change music all the time, they take up the whole idea.
Yeah.
And to keep the theme consistent, they change everything. So it makes it more of a one-year thing than it does.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take those uniforms and think, well, how many different shows could you do in that uniform? It's pretty narrow.
Yeah, it's just kind of one, basically.
Yeah. But it's pretty neat.
Yeah. Awesome. I love your thoughts on that. Another aspect I thought of was that you've done a lot of judging, adjudication in, I guess, the UMEA circuit and others. Do you want to talk a little bit about your time as a judge of marching bands?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that, as I was kind of going through things historically, I remember the different judging systems that there used to be. When Jerry Chatelain came to Payson from Southern California, ESCS, BOA, Southern California School Band Orchestra Directors, had their own system, and they had judging sheets for parades and judging sheets for field show. And they would bring up judges from California every year for the Payson show. And there was the BOA sheets, and then different parts of the country would have different sheets. They kind of standardized a bit. It was always interesting some of them would put so many more points for music than visual, and some would have more for visual. Those things all affect how you write your shows and how you rehearse your shows.
Yeah.
I look at it now, and they get the same judges often, maybe 2 or 3 times during the year. And there was a time when we didn't have band competitions at high schools. They were only at the universities. Weber had one, and Utah State had one, and University of Utah, BYU. Then there was one that started at Nebo, and Davis Cup was up at the U also.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were taller stadiums, so you think about the production there.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing, I remember judging in New Mexico, and they had a band from the Indian reservation.
Oh, wow.
And they all wore turquoise jewelry.
That's pretty cool.
Probably thousands of dollars.
Wow.
And I thought, that's pretty cool, that their heritage,
Yeah.
And I remember one having jugglers. How do you judge the uniformity of the jugglers?
You're like, I don't see a category for this.
Yeah, uniformity.
Yeah.
There are two of them.
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah. And there was a time when batons were really big, And I went through that at American Fork and at BYU with people saying, my daughter's great,
With the twirling the batons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why aren't you one? Yeah. Yeah.
So that was something that initially was at American Fork that kind of phased out and brought in.
We didn't, but they did before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I fell in love with the corps style, it was because of the big flags, tall flags, and rifles.
And the rifles.
I just thought these are so visual.
Yeah.
As opposed to, waiting for it to come back down.
Yeah. As a judge, when you're, watching a band for the first time, you've never seen them before, what specifically, outside of, the technical part, what are you looking to see from that band as a judge?
Well, basically, I want to hear something and then see something that looks like what I'm hearing. And if they're way off from each other, or they're way off inside of themselves, as far as precision, ensemble, and so on, then that's discomforting,
Yeah.
Disjunct. Did you guys rehearse in the same place, or it's your first time together,
Yeah.
You don't say those things, but you think, wow, who organized that, and who came up with that?
Yeah.
That's really, when a group's really good, it's like, yeah. And even watching DCI, last week or so, that's a different style, but that's really good. And that's a different style, but that's really good. But you don't watch something and go, well, that's cool, but it's not really good.
Yeah.
And that's what I think you're looking for most.
Yeah.
If they play out of tune, you can only handle it so much.
Yeah. You're like, I'm checked out of this at this point. Yeah. I'm trying to remember who this was a fairly recent conversation I had. it's important that you are communicating through your music, through your show. What are your thoughts on that as far as like the show itself being a message of some kind, or a communication of some kind?
Well, two things. One is that if you're doing complete numbers, like Send in the Clowns, there's a high point, and there's a point where, it's like, well, this touches my heart.
Yeah.
And that happens, it can happen with a piece that develops, whereas you're doing little snippets, that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
But as you do it over and over again, you think, well, this is pretty neat. But hearing it the first time, it's like, oh yeah, I'm starting to like that,
Yeah.
That I miss that. But I think it needs to share a message that way of this is music. The other thing is, I think altruistically, if you have, this is supposed to make you understand life or war better.
Yeah.
Those are good messages too, We did one show at BYU with Cosmo was Superman, and it was, changing the phone booth and was Batman. And
Oh my God, that's awesome.
All these legal issues.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah, but doing that, people loved it. Crowds have never gone more wild than they did to that, just because people relate to it quickly.
Yeah.
I think you have to grab people and let them know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you explore an idea, portraits or frames or whatever, you stretch yourself a little bit more.
Yeah. We were talking about, going back to another conversation, Cheyenne Ogsawala at West Jordan High School. She was telling us about her show this year for 2026. And it's going to, I think I asked her, what's the theme, or what's the story, what's the message? And she's like, there's not really a story. It's about stars. And I think that's, you could have like these abstract concepts, but then you can also have a story, and but I think either way, either direction you go, there's still a message of some sort that comes across, because it's music and it's pageantry, and at the end, you're still reaching to touch people in the audience,
Right. Yeah. I think that's important. I mean, obviously now we see people with their T-shirts that, this is our show that year.
Yeah.
But it used to be that people would change it. It's like, oh, that's not really working for a ballad, or this. We're going to change this piece. And we did that with BYU. Sometimes you hit formations that you knew you could go into something else from that. But the ability to change numbers is something that we've kind of lost as we go towards this one concept.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it further evolves. I feel like we're in kind of the center of an evolution that's happening. And
Yeah.
We were also speaking with a person that does all of the audio design, the sound design, with the front ensemble and with the speakers and with the synth. It's just fascinating when you look at maybe your first couple of years at American Fork and juxtapose that with what's happening today.
Oh, yeah,
with all that stuff.
I remember taking the glockenspiels and figuring out a way to carry them.
Oh, to like a harness on the field.
And DCI back then even had timpani that they
marching timpani.
Oh,
wow!
They come out with the timpani, and then the first time I saw a xylophone or something on the front, I thought, this is kind of weird. Now it's such a, of course, you got lots of people that play piano and lots of people want to do that.
Yeah.
But that's another huge expense.
Oh yeah. He was talking about and we haven't released this episode yet, so I probably won't talk about this stuff. But like, somebody once asked him, "Why don't you put wireless microphones on everybody in the band? You know how they'll mic soloists.
Yeah.
He's like, why don't you mic the whole band? He's like, well, you're probably looking at $500,000 for all the equipment you would need to do that."
Yeah.
So yeah, you talk about how expense is already a problem in the
Yeah.
marching arts, and then going crazy with stuff like that. But
Yeah. Well, and the props.
yeah, the props, that's a whole nother concept, a whole nother topic. Did you use any props in your shows at BYU or
BYU,
at?
yeah. Some of BYU. In fact, I remember well, American Fork, I look back, we did Saber Dance,
Oh yeah.
and I was my neighbor's bandsaw
Uh-huh.
with plywood, cutting out these pirate-shaped
Oh.
sabers and then covering them with Mylar.
Okay.
Out in the garage doing that.
And
I
you were
remember-
doing that yourself?
Yeah, yes. And then I remember doing, we had a Jaws thing that was in one of the shows. So I'm at home in my garage, styrofoam, trying to make this fin, and hook it fishing line and pull it across the. Yeah,
Oh, so that sounds fun. Those were like simpler times, when the band director was out in the garage at night building his own props.
well, I remember Ron Bruff was my assistant for a while.
At BYU?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When I first went there, he was the assistant because he was drum teacher.
Yeah.
And I think it was one of those times when we were on the sideline pulling on a shark and then trying to get this other thing around. And he said, in the middle of that, I knew this was my last year doing this.
Oh
The
my
next
gosh.
year, he worked it out to get Randall to come over from the junior high and do it.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. Sometimes you have those moments you're like, yeah, I'm not doing this again.
Yeah.
It's so funny though to picture you and him doing that, whereas I don't think you would ever see the directors doing that stuff today in the show. They'd have either staff or there would be students involved that would be doing that. So it's quite an image to think of you guys out there
Yeah.
doing that. Speaking of making things in your garage, and I don't know if this is all done in your garage, but you make conducting batons, or you used to. Would you tell me about how that all got started and what all went into it?
Yeah. I went to conducting symposium and I met a guy that made batons. And I had a little lathe that made tops for my kids and so on. So I started experimenting with it, became more interested, and then as I started making them, BYU needed some more, and then other directors would ask me. So I got to a point where I made like 300 a year,
Jeez.
but it was hard on me physically because they'd come at the same time, the class orders and so on. But it was a great hobby for me, and I met a lot of neat people, and conductors, I'd go up and look at their baton and then make them a copy of what they had.
Oh, wow.
Or Xerox it and say, for some big time people, it was fun giving them to them.
Yeah.
But the other reason I did it was to give those to music ed graduates when they took their first teaching job.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like your housewarming gift, your job warming gift.
Yeah.
That's what got me into that, and giving them away and at times was fun, but also seeing people Midwest, Bruce Moss from Bowling Green, and also Wheaton Band. I was telling somebody the other day, there was a baton maker in Ohio, so he said, I can't tell people I'm using your baton, but I sure love it.
Yeah.
But I remember being there at Midwest, and he's conducting along, and he saw me over on the side, and he goes,
Yeah.
it's fun. knowing that you help some people out.
Oh yeah. Well, I see your batons all over the place being used by band directors here in Utah.
Yeah.
And I bought one when I was at BYU.
Oh,
Yeah,
did you?
they were in the BYU music office
Yeah.
and band office. Because I think I had seen one, and I'm like, that is a nice looking baton. And I've always, ever since I was a little kid, I loved conducting batons. When I was a really little kid, I used them for sword fights. But when I got a little bit more interested in music, I used to put on the Boston Pops and practice conducting. There's pictures of me with my dad made me a little music stand, and I'd conduct with. But I always loved conducting batons. And when I saw the ones that you made, I was just like, wow, that is like exactly the shape of the handle that I like. And I loved how you had the metal weight that rests in the bottom of the handle, and they're just beautiful. They're so well made, and I've always been. I love mine. Every now and then, I will admit, I will still pull that out and conduct to some music in my room, just for fun. But yeah, I've always been fascinated by
My
doing
grandkids
that.
talk about when they were young. They'd say, "Is Grandpa going batoning?" And they'd see me in a video and go, "There's Grandpa batoning."
He's batoning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun hobby, and I enjoyed doing it. But the dexterity this last year, after Christmas, I just said I can't do it anymore.
So you've made your last one.
Matt Tippett's kind of bought all my stuff.
Oh, okay.
He's doing it now.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
He's going to call them legacy batons.
Oh, so he's got a company name for. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, well, people kept asking, well, who's going to do it? And I said, I don't know. But he's a woodworker,
There you go.
and his dad was a cabinet maker, and he loves doing that, and does great furniture. And
Nice. Yeah.
so I put up a thing when I was getting ready to give it up. I said, going to give it up. And he wrote and said something. I said, are you interested? And he said, yes. So that's how it evolved.
That's
He
awesome.
was just here yesterday.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you used to make toys, tops
Yeah, little
out of
tops
wood.
of stems. Yeah.
So you've worked with wood for a long time.
A bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not necessarily as a cabinet maker or anything.
No. Although I used to build some things, but nothing like these things here.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know about how many batons total that you made?
I don't.
You said you're doing about 300 a year at one point, but
Yeah, at one point. And I did them, from 1997
oh wow.
till 2026. But it wasn't always that many. I would say it probably averaged 150. So,
Okay.
I don't know.
That's a lot of batons.
Yeah, it is.
And they're all out. They're all over the country and maybe all over the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the other thing, I hear from people that I was on tour and I gave one to a conductor from another band or something.
Nice. Well, I look forward to seeing what Matt Tippett does with
Well,
Legacy Batons.
He's doing great.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
That's cool to know that originated with you and now he's
Yeah,
taking
well,
it
he
on.
interviewed me. He wanted to get some of my history so he could write it in his webpage. He's
Oh, awesome.
getting ready to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look for that because I love that started with you.
Yeah, I thought I was honored that he said, Don's batons, Matt's batons doesn't sound as good as Don's batons.
Yeah, Don.
I said, so I'm trying to come up with something. So he said, I decided it should be legacy and that I should mention you. So
I think legacy is a great word because it kind of envelops, a history, which you have a history with it. So, and then also, the perpetual, history of
passing the baton.
Yeah, the passing. That's perfect.
I guess one of the things that, as you get older, you see things passing. I worry about the future of live music.
Mm-hmm.
And how people look at that. It's like efficiency. Why do you need that many people playing? The orchestras and musicals have gotten smaller and smaller, and they can do everything on a keyboard.
Yeah.
I mean, those things have added a lot to marching band shows,
Right.
But there was something to be said for having all those sounds come from here, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the confines of when bugles first started out, you know, no valves, then one, and then two, and then now trombones are out there, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
what are they doing, you know? And then now they're doing woodwind instruments. Yeah, I worry about that a little bit. People that like music, why would you ever need to have an orchestra? You know, why would you ever need to do this when we can make all these sounds? That cheats some people out of experiences.
Oh, absolutely. And you being such a purist with instrumental music and ensembles and stuff, you know, I totally understand that. I do have a lot of hope for that, though, because in other aspects of society, I've seen where big new shiny things come into play, such as CGI in movies, and suddenly everyone's using CGI to do everything. But some time goes by and people are like, you know what? We miss back when everything was done practically. And so there's this big movement to bring it back. And I think that that's something that happens in society overall, is that the big new flashy thing comes in, everyone focuses on that for a while, and then they're like, this isn't actually that good. Let's go back to the human-made stuff. And that's a really big conversation with the advent of AI. And you have AI music now, which is a travesty, I think. And, you know, hopefully the humanity of music performance stays intact. But I definitely share that worry with you, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah. Well, and I guess what worries me about that, if bands are going for awards places, and the students are so much more interested in winning than they are making music, I think that adds to it. You know, their experience is limited to songs that nobody knows.
Yeah.
You know, pieces that are made up of pieces that sound like other pieces or create this effect.
Yeah.
Rather than the length of a piece, you know, symphony or even a tone poem or something.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know, 35 seconds of how do you get this to do that?
And transition into this and then to this. Yeah. Interesting perspective and very valid. And this is very likely, I'm sure that we'll have at least one person watching this or listening to it that wants to become a music educator, whether it's band, orchestra, choir, anything. As a lifelong music educator, what would you tell them to expect from the experience of being a career music educator?
It's a lot more work than you think it's going to be. I think it's a career that you need to reinvent yourself, but also learn how to balance. You can get into a rut. You can get frustrated. I found it when I would get real frustrated, like working with athletics or whatever. I'd love to come home and work on my sound room, you know, working on my stereo system, working on the woodwork around it, digging into the lathe, taking out my frustration, so that everything wasn't that. I think that's important to be able to get a balance, or you won't make it very long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it, you know, to try to find ways of balancing. I didn't do that as well as I'd like to have done.
One thing I thought was interesting, you said earlier, was when you got to kind of the end of your time at American Fork, you realized that you weren't going to be able to last doing it the way that it was being done. And that's definitely a moment of introspection and being honest with yourself. And I think that, that ended up being a very good thing for you because you were able to find something that worked better for you. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? I guess you were saying finding balance, but also knowing yourself well and making sure that you're taking care of yourself.
Well, I think one thing that I've heard people talk about a lot in the conducting world, in the band conducting world, is that stop just listening to band music. I've heard band directors that, in fact, we've even had some on tour with us with Utah Ambassadors. We have a choir and a band. Some of the band people are like, oh, choir. It's like, doesn't that say something to you? It's like, no. And I think, wow, that. I guess I could say shallow, but it hurts me. It's like, how can you be so much against choral just because they were taking some of your kids away, or
Yeah, is it a personal thing?
Did you ever experience this, or can you not listen to this choir and have it say something to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important to get outside of that. And if you do that, I mean, I did a lot of jazz, so that was a release in many ways.
Oh yeah.
And I directed the jazz band in the Army band for
Nice.
a while.
Yeah.
Last few years, and it's a nice release, playing different kind of music.
Yeah.
The guy that did my drumline years ago and then taught in Texas, and he was here just a couple of weeks ago, but we were talking about this, and he said, you just got to listen to different genres and stretch yourself. I think that's the key. If you start seeing the world based on what score that piece is going to get at festival, then there's something wrong.
Yeah. You've now retired. You've been retired for about 5 years now. Still continue to be involved in the band scene and keeping a finger on the pulse. What do you miss the most about being a band director?
Making music. I kind of had to give a lot of that up at the same time. I had a throat injury, and so I couldn't play my trumpet much anymore. And then my music making was here. And then as I've lost more with Parkinson's, I thought, well, at least I'll be able to adjudicate. I've lost more with Parkinson's, so it's like a part of you is taken away that you can't get back.
Yeah.
So what I miss is connecting with music and connecting with people.
Yeah.
There's nothing like being around young people and to keep you young, at least your heart beating.
Yeah.
And just, remembering that, keeping it in your mind. Kind of like people talk about raising kids, what should you remember? And the answer is everything. But those young years, you think, are we going to make it through this?
Yeah.
I look at my grandkids, and my kids are like, well, that was a problem. So enjoy it while you got it, 'cause when it's gone, when the house is empty, it's empty. Yeah, enjoy it. And I wish I would have kept track of things more, kept better notes and yearbooks and people ask me about shows and I can't remember. But then if they talk about it, well, I can remember it.
Yeah.
Or about concerts or about countries.
You've traveled quite a bit.
Yeah. In fact, I added it up a couple of years ago. And I've been out of the country at least 365 days.
Wow.
I think I've conducted or performed in 22 countries, So I've seen lots of the world.
Yeah.
And Yeah.
And in the context of music.
And yes, yeah,
Yeah.
to the background or to the score of music. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the pictures you posted from, I think it was Austria, when you went and saw some of the filming locations from The Sound of Music.
Oh,
And I thought
yeah.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Peterson, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I feel sad having to end the conversation at all, but you've been such a generous host having me here to talk about your career and your life. And I want to, on behalf of the thousands of lives that you've touched over the years, I want to thank you for everything you've done as an educator, as a person. And we wish you the best in your retirement, and we hope to see you around as many years as we can possibly get you for in the band scene. So
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you do for the state and for arts in general.
It's definitely a pleasure. It's a lot of fun. No complaints at all. So Don, thank you so much. I appreciate your
Thank you.
time. Thank you for joining us on the Marching Arts Utah podcast. We'll see you in the next episode.